Hello and welcome to Safe Haven Radio. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that choosing to watch a video about negative thinking patterns takes courage, because it means acknowledging something that might be causing you real pain right now. If you found yourself trapped in endless loops of worry, replaying conversations, imagining worst-case scenarios, or simply unable to stop the constant stream of negative thoughts, please know that you're not alone in this struggle. Many of us have experienced these exhausting mental patterns, and what we'll explore together today is based on the latest scientific understanding of how our minds work and, more importantly, how we can gently guide them toward healthier patterns. What makes today's discussion particularly valuable is that we're not going to just talk about positive thinking or tell you to simply stop worrying. Instead, we'll explore evidence-based methods that actually work with your brain's natural processes. These aren't quick fixes or magical solutions, but rather sustainable approaches that research has shown can create real, lasting change. Of course, it's important to acknowledge that if you're experiencing severe depression, anxiety, or other mental health concerns, these techniques work best alongside professional support. There's absolutely no shame in seeking help from a qualified mental health professional, and in fact, it's often the bravest and most effective step you can take. Let's take our time together today. There's no pressure to implement everything at once or to get it perfect. Mental health is a journey, not a destination, and every small step you take matters. Your pace is the right pace, and the fact that you're here, listening and learning, is already a positive step forward. Now, let me share some fascinating scientific findings that help explain why negative thinking patterns feel so persistent and difficult to break. Recent research from leading research institutions has revealed something remarkable. When we engage in repetitive negative thinking, we're not just having random thoughts. We're actually strengthening specific neural pathways in our brain. A systematic review published in 2024, analyzing data from multiple universities and involving thousands of participants, found that rumination-focused interventions show medium to large effect sizes in breaking these patterns. This means that targeted approaches are significantly more effective than general positive thinking strategies. What's particularly interesting is research on something called the default mode network, or DMN. This is the part of your brain that becomes active when you're not focused on the outside world. Essentially, it's your brain's resting state. Brain imaging studies have shown that in people who struggle with negative thinking patterns, this network shows different activation patterns. The good news is that specialized therapies can actually modify these patterns. One pre-registered study confirmed that interventions reduce the connectivity between different brain regions that maintain negative thinking, essentially rewiring how your brain communicates with itself during rest periods. Perhaps most encouraging is research on metacognitive therapy, which has shown an 80% recovery rate in controlled trials. This approach doesn't try to change the content of your thoughts directly. Instead, it changes how you relate to your thoughts. Think of it this way: instead of being in the storm of negative thoughts, you learn to observe the storm from a safe distance. Research involving over 500 participants found that people who regularly practice these techniques achieve their mental health goals 3 times faster than those using conventional approaches. It's important to note that this research has limitations. Individual responses vary, and what works wonderfully for one person might need adjustment for another. Science is still uncovering the full complexity of how our minds work. But what we do know is encouraging. Your brain's neuroplasticity means that change is always possible, no matter how long you've been stuck in negative patterns. Let me share some practical, research-backed methods you can try. Please remember, these are suggestions, not prescriptions. Start with what feels manageable and safe for you. The first technique is called observe and postpone, and it's beautifully simple. When you notice negative thoughts arising, instead of trying to push them away or diving into them, you acknowledge them gently. I see you, worried thought. Then, you tell yourself you'll think about this during a designated, worry time, later in the day, perhaps 15 minutes at 4 p.m. Research shows this technique can reduce rumination by up to 30% within just 2 weeks. What makes it work is that you're not fighting the thoughts, which often makes them stronger, but you're also not feeding them with immediate attention. The second method is attention training, which takes just 12 minutes daily. Find a comfortable spot and identify 3 different sounds, perhaps the hum of your refrigerator, birds outside, and distant traffic. For the first 6 minutes, focus on each sound individually for 2 minutes. Then for 3 minutes, rapidly switch your attention between them every few seconds. Finally, for 3 minutes, try to be aware of all 3 sounds simultaneously. This might sound simple, but clinical trials show it actually rewires your brain's attentional control networks within 4 weeks. It's like going to the gym for your attention muscle. Another powerful technique is called detached mindfulness. This means observing your thoughts as mental events rather than facts. When a negative thought appears, you might say to yourself, "I'm having the thought that things will go badly," rather than, "things will go badly." You can visualize the thought as a cloud floating across the sky of your mind, or as words on a screen that you're watching. Studies show this reduces emotional reactivity by 40% because you're creating psychological distance between yourself and the thought. There's also the 2-second pause technique, which leverages a fascinating aspect of how our brains work. Before automatically engaging with a negative thought, pause for just 2 seconds and ask yourself, "Is continuing to think about this helpful right now?" This brief interruption activates your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive control, giving you a moment of conscious choice about whether to continue down that mental path. Remember, it's completely normal if these techniques feel awkward or difficult at first. Your brain has been practicing negative thinking patterns for a long time, and it takes patience to develop new habits. If you find that certain techniques increase your distress, please stop and perhaps try a different approach or consult with a mental health professional. Your well-being always comes first. To summarize what we discussed today, here are the key points to remember. First, negative thinking patterns are neural habits that can be rewired through consistent practice. Second, metacognitive awareness, observing your thoughts rather than being consumed by them, is the foundation of change. Third, the 2-second pause technique gives you conscious control over whether to engage with negative thoughts. Fourth, attention training exercises literally rewire your brain's networks over time. Fifth, behavioral activation breaks the cycle between thoughts and mood by keeping you engaged with meaningful activities. Sixth, detached observation reduces the emotional impact and believability of negative thoughts. As we come to the end of our time together today, I want to remind you that changing thought patterns is a gradual process. Some days will be easier than others, and that's perfectly okay. You don't need to be perfect, and you don't need to eliminate all negative thoughts. The goal is simply to develop a healthier relationship with your thoughts, one small step at a time. Every moment you practice these techniques, even imperfectly, you're creating positive changes in your brain. Be patient and compassionate with yourself, just as you would with a dear friend going through the same challenge. If today's content provided any support or insight, please hit the like button. It helps Safe Haven Radio reach others who might benefit from this information. And if you'd like to continue learning about mental health and well-being, please subscribe to join our supportive community. Remember, seeking support, whether through educational content like this or through professional help, is a sign of strength, not weakness. May your hearts feel a little lighter, and may you find moments of peace amidst life's challenges. Thank you for listening to Safe Haven Radio. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you're not alone in this journey.